Всем привет, меня зовут Айн, и я американский полиглот, который выучил русский язык. И сегодня в этом видео я вам расскажу все, что вам нужно знать перед изучением русского языка. Блин, уже хочется сделать целое видео на русском. Alright, so like I said in the beginning of this video, today we're talking about the Russian language. I've been learning Russian for the past 7 years, and you can find out a lot more about my journey, how long it took me, how exactly I learned, and whatnot elsewhere on my channel. But today we're talking about things I wish I knew before I began learning Russian. So like I said, I've been learning Russian for the past 7 years, and I'm now fluent, as you heard at the beginning of this video. And no, I'm not Russian, nor have I ever lived in or even been to Russia. I've been learning Russian all on my own through various websites and resources, etc. But there are still a lot of things that I wish I knew when I first began learning that I am going to share with you here today. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing that I wish I knew was that you can't skirt around the case system. You can't put off learning the declensions or the case system. And I'm talking about the accusative case, the dative case, the genitive case. You get the idea. I spent the first 1.5 to 2 years of learning Russian trying to speak without ever studying the case system, but it's just not possible, and you'll save yourself a major headache down the road if you just get out of the way first thing. Second of all, related to the first point, learning is going to take a long time. I don't think I had the patience to learn Russian when I first began, and I think a lot of you that are just now beginning to learn Russian are probably really excited at the prospect of learning a new language, especially Russian, but it's not an easy language and it's definitely going to take some time. But if you commit and if you're ready to see results years down the road, it's totally worth it. But if you just want to learn a language quick, you probably better off learning French or Spanish. Thirdly, people are going to correct you, and they're going to correct you a lot. It's all a part of learning. When you're learning a new language, you should focus on communicating in that language with fellow students or with native speakers, and you're always going to get corrected. You're always going to make mistakes. It's just a part of the game. But the thing is, you can't take it personally. I think the first few times when I first got corrected, it really made me feel bad. I lost a lot of confidence and I didn't want to speak anymore, and that hindered a lot of my learning. But you just can't do that. You have to actively pursue growth. And so every time somebody corrects you, don't take it personally, don't feel insulted, because it's not an insult, and just take it as an opportunity to learn, because eventually it's gonna get to a point where people won't be correcting you anymore, and they'll be like, wow, you speak really good. And trust me, it's worth it when you get there. Next is that Russians are very friendly people. You know, when you first start learning Russian, you may have various notions as to what to expect. You might think that Russians are evil, you might think that Russians are angry all the time, or you might have other preconceived notions about Russians that just aren't true. They're very friendly people, and they're always ready to help, especially when they find out you're learning their language. Nobody in Russia ever expects a foreigner to learn their language, and when they hear that someone's learning Russian, they get excited, and they're always going to help you. Russians are hands down your biggest resource. Well, besides the internet, but yeah, you get the point. And the next thing kind of goes in hand with what I just said. Russians get really excited and are always willing to help you when they find out you're learning Russian, and because they want to use it as an opportunity to learn English. Just as much as you're trying to learn their language, they're trying to learn yours. Or if English isn't your native language, then they're trying to learn English. And so it works out really well. If you can help them with their English, they'll help you with your Russian. Sometimes what I would do is have them speak English to me and I would speak Russian to them, and would correct one another, and it works out really well. Next up, I think I've said this a million times in this video already, but you have to focus on speaking. I cannot emphasize just how big of a role speaking the language plays in learning. That's what gives you confidence. That's what's going to allow you to speak fluently. That's what's going to allow you to actually call yourself fluent, because after you've learned the grammar and the words and the conjugations, the next step is just speaking. And there's tons of resources for finding people to speak with that I've mentioned in other videos on my channel, so if you haven't already, you should go check that out. And the next thing I wish I knew is that pronunciation in Russian is very difficult. Russian words don't inherently have accent marks, and so you'll never really know how to pronounce a word until you encounter it. And the best way to get around this is to find resources that feature accent marks over the words, because that is going to give you your best shot at pronouncing Russian words the right way, because I still make pronunciation mistakes, and it all comes down to the fact that I learned Russian without accent marks. The next thing that I wish I knew, and this is probably a big one, I should have probably said this earlier in the video, RT, Russia Today, has free Russian language courses on their website, and these are in-depth language courses. They are so helpful. It gets a little bit boring because you feel like you're sitting in a classroom, but oh my gosh, it's state-funded resources, Russian state-funded resources to help you learn Russian. It's free and it's great. You should use it. Next up, I wish I knew just how good the culture is. The music is really good. You just have to find your niche, but it's really good. But once you really get into the culture, you keep up with it. I still listen to Russian music. I still enjoy Russian music, and it keeps you hooked on the language and it helps you learn. It's such a big deal. Get into the music or whatever else about Russian that you like, the literature, the art, as soon as you can. And the last thing that I wish I knew before I began learning Russian, that I'm going to mention in this video at least, is stay away from Ruski mat. Ruski mat is essentially just Russian cursing. It's considered a language or art form of its own. Stay away from it. It's not good. A lot of Russians use it and they think it's really funny, especially when foreigners use it, but it's not gonna help your language skills at all. Eventually, it just takes over your language. When I first started learning Russian, I didn't know where to stop with Ruski mat, and it became a parasite. Every time I spoke, I couldn't speak without it, and it's not a good look. Learn the language first and then focus on Ruski mat if you really want to. Well, alright guys, that's it. Those were just a few things that I wish that I knew before I began learning Russian 7 years ago that I think would have made a really big difference. Some of it might sound generic, but the fact of the matter is, after you've learned the language, you look back and you're like, it was a lot easier said than done. But anyways, if you enjoyed this video, then like always, leave a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe to the channel, and consider sharing the video because that helps me out a lot, and I really hope this video helped you out because that's the goal of this channel, to help people and motivate people to keep learning languages and to pursue being polyglots themselves. But that's all for today, guys. I hope to see you in the next video. Leave in the comments down below what you would like to see in the next video or what language you want me to talk about, and yeah, we'll get to it. Anyways, thanks for watching. Peace out.